Asheville Betrayal. She stole my legacy with her lover. Reddit story. If this story moved, you don't forget to drop a comment and subscribe to Viora for more unforgettable stories that speak to the heart. I saved her family's hotel, but she stabbed me in the back with my rival's kiss. How do you walk away when your life's work is stolen? My name's Derek Walsh. 40, a turnaround consultant in Asheville, North Carolina, with a knack for saving sinking businesses and a $3 million personal portfolio. I keep it humble. No penthouse, just a cedar cabin in Black Mountain, a pickup truck, and a life built on grit. My wife, Grace, 37, is a vision, hazel eyes, a smile that closes, deals a marketing guru who once made our dreams feel unstoppable. We've been married 10 years, our evenings once filled with brewery hops and hiking trails. Our son Owen, 7, our anchor. I thought trust was our foundation, but by fall 2024, Grace's affair with Darren Phillips, my old business rival, and her family's betrayal turned our world to ash. Grace's family hotel, Blue Ridge Haven, was their pride, a 1920s gem teetering on bankruptcy. When her dad, Arthur Hayes, begged me to save it in 2022, I dove in, revamped the HVAC, digitized bookings-trained staff, and pulled it from a $500 000 debt. By 2023, Haven was thriving, bookings up 70%, Yelp glowing. Grace beamed, then her hand in mine. But her late-night strategy calls with Darren, a slick hotel developer I'd outbid years ago, grew frequent. Her perfume changed. Her phone stayed locked, and Owen noticed, why's mom always gone? He'd ask his soccer ball. Still, I kept us steady. Owen's games client turnarounds, Haven's payroll. Thinking Grace was stressed, I was wrong. The first twist hit in October, when Arthur called a family meeting at Haven's oak-paneled lounge. I expected a bonus for saving their legacy. Instead, Arthur named Grace's brother Ethan Hayes, a lazy drunk who'd tanked 2 startups, as CEO. Family blood runs Haven, Arthur said, his eyes avoiding mine. Grace stood silent, her lips tight. No defense for me. My blood boiled. Darren's smirk across the room, a punch I'd bled for Haven, and they tossed me aside. I walked out, Owen's soccer jersey in my bag, the mountain air sharp, and drove home. Grace didn't follow. I checked Haven's books that night. Owen asleep upstairs, the cabin's fire crackling. A second twist, $50 000 in consulting fees to Darren's firm approved by Grace. My heart sank, the numbers screaming betrayal. I pulled her laptop left open and found emails, Grace and Darren, flirty, intimate, planning Haven's new vision with him as partner. A photo attached, Grace in his arms at a Raleigh conference, her lips on his. My hands shook, the fire's glow, dim proof of a cheating story I'd ignored. I didn't yell. I packed a duffel, kissed Owen's forehead, and drove to a hotel, the Blue Ridge peaks looming. The third twist came days later, when Owen's school called. Grace had missed his parent-teacher meeting, too busy with Darren at Haven. I sped over my truck, roaring, and found Owen doodling alone, his face tight. Mom forgot, he said, his pencil snapping. I hugged him, my voice firm. I've got you, bud, but my chest burned. Grace choosing Darren over our son. I hired a PI, Nate Carter, a no-nonsense ex-cop, to dig into Darren's deals. He's over-leveraged, Nate said, tossing me a file. Using Haven to launder cash from bad investments. My stomach churned. Was Grace his lover or his accomplice? The fourth twist hit at Owen's soccer match, where Grace showed up, her silk scarf fluttering, trying to cheer. Owen ignored her, his kicks wild, and I stepped in, my voice low, the Asheville sun harsh. You're with Darren signing his checks. I said, stay away. Her eyes welled, her voice soft. It's not what you think, Derek. I pointed to her car, the field dust thick. You think I'm blind, she fled, but Owen's doodle, a broken goalpost, me standing tall, stayed with me. I called my lawyer, Claire Monroe, a bulldog in corporate law. Grace has no claim to your assets, she said. But Darren's trouble. We'll expose them. I nodded, the mountain breeze cold, Owen's hand in mine. Grace and her family had erased me, but I'd rise stronger, fiercer. Claire Monroe's office was a sleek Asheville loft, the Blue Ridge peaks sharp through her window as she pored over Blue Ridge Haven's financials. Grace and Darren are bleeding the hotel dry, she said, her voice steady. Grace's affair with Darren Phillips, her $50 000 payments to his firm, and her family's decision to crown her drunk brother Ethan as CEO had gutted me. Owen's broken goalpost doodle and his cold shoulder to Grace at the soccer match were scars from their betrayal, and I'd fight to protect my son and my legacy. I leaned forward, my hands firm. They get nothing, I said. Claire nodded, already typing. We'll freeze their accounts. Get me more texts. Deals, anything. I left the November chill biting and vowed to bury their lies. Owen was sketching jagged mountains, his pencil heavy, his 7-year-old voice sharp. "Mom doesn't care about us," he said, his soccer jersey crumpled. I knelt, my throat tight. "She's lost Bud. We're solid." But his mountains grew darker, his trust in Grace shattered. I kept his world steady, school drop-offs, client turnarounds for a $4 million retail chain, backyard camping, while my sister Lena Walsh stepped in her warm brownies, a lifeline. "You're Owen's hero. Derek," she'd say, tossing a football. But at night, Grace's Raleigh conference photo, her lips on Darren's, looped in my mind, her cheating story, a weight I carried alone. The first twist hit in December, when Nate Carter, my PI, met me at a mountain diner, sliding a tablet across the table. "Grace and Darren are scheming," he said, his eyes hard. The tablet showed bank transfers $75,000 from Haven's accounts to Darren's offshore LLC, signed by Grace. "Darren's laundering through Haven." Nate said, "Grace thinks it's your money." My blood surged. "Grace funding her lover's fraud with the hotel I saved." Nate leaned in. "They're planning to sell Haven's land post-divorce." My stomach churned. Sell Haven. I gripped the table, the diner's neon buzzing. "Get video," I said. "I want them caught." I showed Claire the transfers, her jaw tight. "This kills their credibility," she said, "filing to subpoena Darren's LLC records, fraud and infidelity. They're toast." I nodded, but Owen's sketches grew bleaker. His mountains now storms. I enrolled him in therapy with Dr. Emily Vance, a calm expert who helped him voice his hurt. "Mom left us for Darren," Owen said, his pencil still. Why I hugged him, my chest aching. "She's wrong, Bud. I'm here." But the question gnawed: was Grace's affair a fling or a calculated grab for Haven's assets? The second twist came in January, when Grace showed up at Owen's school, her cashmere coat tight, trying to sign him out for lunch. The principal called me, her voice tense. I sped over my pickup, roaring, and found Grace in the office. Her smile forced. "I just want time with him," she said, her perfume heavy. I stepped close, my voice low. "You're sleeping with Darren, draining Haven. You don't get Owen." Her face paled, guilt flashing. "It's not like that," she stammered. Owen ran up, his voice sharp. "I don't want you." Grace flinched, fleeing to her car, but Owen's eyes stayed dark, his storms now chaotic. I held his hand, the school's fluorescent lights harsh, and swore I'd shield him. Nate's next report was a gut punch, the third twist. He'd hacked Darren's cloud-finding emails to Grace, plotting to leverage Haven's equity for a $2 million land deal. "Derek's out," Darren wrote. "We run the show." My stomach twisted, Grace conspiring to erase me. Claire filed to expose their conspiracy, her voice fierce. "This proves fraud," she said. I agreed, but Owen's therapy sketches grew wilder, his sessions heavier. I upped his time with Dr. Vance. My own nights, sleepless, client deadlines, legal prep, the weight of being Owen's only anchor. Lena saw it pouring coffee one dawn. "You're stronger than their lies, Derek," she said. I tried to believe her, but the edges frayed. The fourth twist hit in February, when my old client Tessa Brooks, a hotelier, called, heard Grace and Darren pitching Haven's land to investors. She said, "They claimed you abandoned it, abandoned it." My blood boiled. Grace rewriting my legacy. I thanked Tessa, called Claire, and pushed Nate harder. "Get their pitch on record." I said. Nate delivered days later a recording of Grace telling investors, "Derek's gone, we're the future." I handed it to Claire, the Asheville skyline glinting, Owen's soccer ball in my mind. Grace's war was personal, but I'd built Haven from nothing. Could I let her destroy it, or was this my fight to win? By March, the divorce loomed set for May. I hired a forensic accountant, Ryan Holt, to trace Darren's offshore accounts, linking them to Haven's losses. Nate caught Grace and Darren at a bar, her laughter sharp in grainy footage that twisted my gut. I kept it from Owen, but he sensed it, his sketches now empty peaks. "Does Mom hate us?" he asked, his soccer ball. Still, I hugged him, the question a blade. "She's mixed up, Bud," I said, but doubt crept in. I fortified my firm new clients, tighter contracts, more time with Owen, while Claire built a case to bury Grace's lies. This wasn't just about saving face. It was about proving I was more than their pawn. That night I stood in my cabin's kitchen, the mountain stars bright. Owen's storm sketch in my hand. Grace wanted my son, my legacy, but I'd given my blood to Haven. Could I walk away for good, or was my name worth fighting for? The Asheville mountains loomed under a March dusk. Owen's empty peak sketch taped to my cabin fridge as Grace's divorce war raged. Her affair with Darren Phillips. Her $125,000 in illicit transfers to his offshore LLC, and her family's choice of her drunk brother Ethan as Blue Ridge Haven's CEO. had erased my years of saving their hotel Nate Carter's audio, Ryan Holt's financial traces, and Grace's emails plotting to sell Haven's land for $2 million were Claire Monroe's weapons. Owen's chaotic storms and his rejection of Grace at school were proof of her damage, and I'd protect my son at all costs. I stood on my porch, the air crisp, and called Nate, find Darren's next play. I said, he's not done. Nate's voice was low. Got a lead. Give me 2 days. Claire's loft buzzed with legal prep, her desk stacked with filings as she outlined our strategy. Grace's fraud ties her to Darren's LLC, she said, tapping Ryan's report. It showed Haven's accounts drained with Grace's signatures on every transfer. She's liable, whether she knew or not. Claire said. I nodded, my jaw tight, but Owen's storm sketch burned in my mind, me standing tall. Grace a shadow. I pushed Nate harder. Darren's pitching investors. I said, get his endgame. Nate delivered at a foggy trailhead, handing me a flash drive. Darren's meeting a hedge fund, he said. Wants to flip Haven's land for a quick $3 million. Cut Grace out. My pulse spiked. Grace a pawn in Darren's scam. I sent the drive to Claire, who grinned. This splits them apart. The first twist hit in early April at Owen's art class showcase, where he displayed a jagged cliff. His strokes fierce, Grace slipped in her scarf, loose eyes on Owen. He froze, his canvas trembling, and I strode over, my voice low, the studio lights stark. You don't get to show up here, I said. Grace's perfume hit me, her voice soft. I just want him to see me, Derek. I pointed to the door, my chest tight. You saw Darren instead. She left, her steps heavy, but Owen's painting fell, his voice sharp. She's not my mom. I hugged him, the paint smearing, and swore I'd keep her chaos away. I threw myself into Owen building model rockets, coaching his soccer, while closing a $6 million turnaround for a brewery to keep my firm ironclad Lena. My sister saw my strain, her lasagna steaming one night. You're Owen's everything, Derek, she said, squeezing my arm. But Grace's school stunt trying to sign Owen out cut deep. Dr. Emily Vance, Owen's therapist, reassured me. He trusts you, she said, showing his latest sketch, a lighthouse me at the base. Grace a faint cloud. Owen's therapy words were steel. Mom chose Darren. I stay with Dad. I clung to that. But his quiet kicks at soccer, clutching his ball, were scars I couldn't erase. The second twist came in late April, when Claire got a tip from a court clerk Grace planned to testify I'd abandoned Haven, pushing her to Darren, and claimed Owen's therapy was my manipulation. She's grasping. Claire said, her eyes narrowing. Darren's hedge fund deal is shaky, investors are pulling out. I met Nate at a dive bar, the air thick with bourbon. He slid me a folder, Darren's text to Grace, demanding she secure the land, or he'd ditch her. She's panicking, Nate said. My stomach twisted. Grace used by Darren or complicit Claire, filed to expose her lies, her voice fierce. This proves she's after money, not Owen. I nodded, but Owen's sketches grew darker, his therapy heavier. I upped his sessions. My nights haunted by Grace's Raleigh photo, her lips on Darren's. The third twist hit days before the trial, when Darren emailed me, his tone smug. Back off, Walsh. Haven's mine, Grace knows it. My heart raced. Suspicion drowning shock. Why warn me? I replied, the cabin dark, the mountains silent. No response. I called Nate, who traced Darren to a Raleigh penthouse. He's meeting investors tomorrow. Nate said Grace isn't invited. My blood boiled. Darren cutting Grace loose to save his deal. I sent the email to Claire, who filed to subpoena Darren's investor contracts. If he's solo, her testimony's worthless, she said. I agreed. Driving home, the Asheville fog, heavy Owen's lighthouse sketch my guide. Was Grace a victim of Darren's greed, or had she chosen this path? The fourth twist came at Owen's school play, where he played a tree, his grin fierce. Grace's dad, Arthur Hayes, showed up. His suit wrinkled, and cornered me in the lobby, his voice low. Haven's dying, Derek. Ethan's a disaster, help us. My throat tightened. Arthur, who'd crowned Ethan, now begging. You threw me out. I said, the lobby light's harsh. Live with it. He slumped, leaving, but Owen's play ended with applause, his hug tight. You're my team, Dad, he said. I smiled, but Arthur's plea lingered. Haven was my blood and sweat. Could I let it crumble? By May, the divorce trial loomed, set for June. I hired a second accountant, Mia Tate, to deepen Ryan's trace of Darren's LLC, linking it to Haven's $200,000 losses. Nate caught Grace at a cafe alone, her eyes red, Darren absent. I kept it from Owen, but he sensed it. His sketches now turbulent waves. Will Mom take me? He asked his soccer ball. Still I hugged him, his fear a knife. Never, Bud, I said, but doubt crept in. I fortified our life, new locks, art supplies, more rocket nights, while Claire built a case to end Grace's claims. This wasn't just about winning. It was about proving I was Owen's home. That night I stood in my cabin's yard, the mountain stars bright, Owen's wave sketch in my hand. Grace wanted my son my legacy, but I'd built Haven from ashes. Could I forgive her for Owen's sake, or was my strength enough alone? The Asheville mountains glowed under a June sunrise, Owen's turbulent wave sketch pinned to my cabin wall, as the divorce trial loomed. Grace's affair with Darren Phillips, her $200,000 in fraudulent transfers to his offshore LLC, and her family's choice of her drunk brother Ethan as Blue Ridge Haven's CEO, had erased my years of saving their hotel, Claire Monroe's arsenal, Nate Carter's audio, Ryan Holt's financial traces. Darren's texts cutting Grace out proved their greed. Owen's lighthouse sketch and his fierce loyalty at the school play were my shield against Grace's lies, claiming I'd abandoned Haven and manipulated Owen. Darren's smug email and Arthur's plea for help had only hardened my resolve. I stood in my yard, coffee steaming, and called Nate. Track Darren's Raleigh deals. I said he's doubling down. Nate's voice was sharp. He's slippery, I'm on it. Claire's loft was a legal war zone, her laptop open to Darren's collapsing LLC as she prepped for the June 15th trial. Grace's fraud buries her, she said, tapping Mia Tate's report. It linked Grace's signatures to $250. 000 in Haven losses tied to Darren's SEC-probed accounts. She's complicit, pawn or not. Claire said. I nodded, my fists tight, but Owen's wave sketch burned in my mind. Me and him, Grace, a ghost. I pushed Nate harder. Darren's hedge fund is crumbling, I said. Find his exit. Nate met me at a foggy Asheville brewery, sliding a USB drive. Darren's pitching Haven's land to a new buyer, he said. Grace doesn't know. My pulse roared. Darren betraying Grace too. I sent the drive to Claire, who smirked. This splits their defense. The first twist hit in early June at Owen's soccer tournament, where he scored. His grin fierce. Grace appeared on the sidelines, her pregnancy barely hidden eyes on Owen. He missed a kick, spotting her, and I strode over, my voice low, the mountain sun harsh. You're not his mom anymore, I said. Grace's scarf fell. Her voice cracked. I'm trying, Derek. For Owen. I stepped closer, her perfume a shadow. You tried with Darren's fraud. She flinched, tears welling, but Owen ran to me, his voice sharp. She's not my team. Grace retreated, her car peeling out, but Owen's missed kicks lingered, his pain my own. I hugged him, the field dust thick, and swore I'd keep her lies at bay. I doubled down on Owen, building kites, reading sci-fi while closing a $7 million turnaround for a tech startup to keep my firm untouchable. Lena saw my exhaustion. Her coffee steaming one morning. You're Owen's rock, Derek, she said, tossing a kite string. But Grace's lies, claiming I'd manipulated Owen, cut deep. Dr. Emily Vance, Owen's therapist, bolstered me. He's healing with you, she said, showing a new sketch, a sunrise, me and Owen flying kites. Grace, a fading mist. Owen's therapy words were iron moms. With Darren Dad's my home, I held that. But his quiet moments at soccer, clutching his ball, were wounds I couldn't fully heal. The second twist came a week before the trial, when Mia Tate found a $30,000 transfer from Grace to Darren, forged with my signature on a Haven lease. She used your equity, Mia said, tossing me records. Thought you'd miss it. My blood surged. Grace stealing my work again. Claire filed fraud charges, her voice lethal. This kills her custody claim. I met Nate at a rooftop bar. The city lights cold. He slid photos. Darren meeting a buyer alone. Grace, absent his smirk. Bold. He's cutting her out, Nate said. Told the buyer she's a liability. My stomach churned. Grace discarded by Darren. Claire prepped to grill Darren in court, her eyes gleaming. He'll implode under oath. The third twist hit days before the trial, when Grace showed up at my cabin, her SUV idling, her face pale in the Asheville twilight. Owen was at Lena's safe. I met her at the door, arms crossed the air, thick with pine. I'm dropping the fight, she said, her voice breaking, eyes hollow. Darren's gone, I've lost Owen. My heart raced. Suspicion drowning her tears. Why now? I asked, her scarf slipping, her betrayal. Stark, I saw Owen's sketch, she whispered. You're his world. I'm nothing, I studied her. The woman I'd loved now broken. You chose Darren, I said, my voice steel. Own it. She nodded, tears falling, and drove off. I called Claire, who scoffed. She's playing the judge, she said. Stay sharp. I gripped Owen's sunrise sketch, the paper cool and braced for her next move. The trial began June 15, 2025, in an Asheville courtroom, the cedar benches hard under my hands. Claire presented our case, Grace's affair, Darren's fraud, Owen's therapy sketches. Her $280,000 in transfers. Owen called to speak, stood tall, his voice clear. I want Dad, he said, glaring at Grace. She left us. The judge, a stern man, nodded his pen steady. Grace's lawyer, Paul Reed, called her to testify where she wept, claiming I'd abandoned Haven. Pushing her to Darren, Claire dismantled her, flashing Darren's texts and Mia's forged documents. Did you forge Mr. Walsh's signature to fund Mr. Phillips's scams? Claire asked, her voice ablade. Grace stammered, the courtroom humming. Paul called Darren, who strode in lying. I'd sabotaged Haven. Claire shredded him, revealing his SEC probe and buyer meetings. You planned to ditch Miss Hayes, didn't you? She pressed. Darren froze, his lies crumbling, the judge's gaze icy. The fourth twist came mid-trial when Dr. Vance testified. Derek is Owen's anchor, she said, her voice calm. Grace's actions caused trauma. Then she revealed Grace had emailed Owen's school alleging I'd coerced his loyalty. She sought control, not connection. Vance said. I gripped Claire's arm, stunned Grace manipulating Owen's school. The judge's pen paused, his eyes narrowing. Claire leaned in, whispering, she's done. The courtroom pulsed, Owen's future on the line. The judge ruled on June 22nd, full custody. To me. My assets untouched. Grace's claims dismissed, fraud charges filed. Owen hugged me, his grin fierce, whispering, we're a team. Dad. Grace left, eyes down. Darren, trailing his smirk, gone. Claire clapped my shoulder. You're free, Derek. I nodded, but the victory felt heavy. I'd saved Owen, my firm, but his scars lingered. Fall brought light. Owen's sketches bloomed with color, his kicks strong. Lena moved out, her hugs warm, while I closed a $10 million deal, my firm soaring. At Owen's art fair, I met Elise Harper, a teacher with a bright laugh, her eyes gentle. She didn't pry, just shared a coffee. Cheered Owen's games and left a note. You're an incredible dad, Derek, keep shining. I smiled, tucking it in my wallet, a spark in the dark. Now I'm on our cabin porch. Owen sketching a sunrise. Asheville's peaks glowing. Grace's calls are rare. Owen's choice and he's healing, but Darren's smirk lingers. Elise's laugh hints at possibility, not promises. I've got my son, my firm, my truth, but can I rebuild trust, or is standing tall enough? The strongest legacies are built from ruins, not riches. Like what you heard, hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Viora, because the next story might just be your favorite one yet.